All right, we are live. Good evening, guys. Thanks for tuning in to Quietly Loud. It's our third episode, first episode with a guest. Just below me there is Drew Jones and Christerfer Pate. Do you go by Chris or Christopher, or do you
Chris.
not care? Chris? Okay.
Sometimes other four-letter names, depends on what who I pissed off.
Absolute. For sure.
I used to hang out with this guy named Christopher, and he created his own nickname and called it Topher.
Oh, good for him. Unless he like the good food.
I was like, dude, I don't know if that's that cool. But anyway, sorry. Little tangent.
Shit.
Yeah. Well, Chris, it's my first time ever meeting you. Obviously, you're good friends with Drew, and I guessing you've probably spent some time talking to Bobby. But for those out there watching that don't really know who exactly you are, maybe give us a little background about yourself, maybe why you got into audio, or if there's a certain particular moment that you could remember that kind of bit you in the butt to stay into this crazy crap we're all into.
Yeah, man. I mean, shoot, been doing this for coming up on 30 years. So, started out in, like all of us in high school, trying to put some beat in our own cars, and, weren't the type of people to, I had father and a brother that were into it, throwing stuff in their S10s and their Datsuns and stuff. And so, of course, invariably I get drug in and I'm out there with a jigsaw, building speaker boxes and putting in dual shaft radios and S10s, and it just kind of you get the bug, and you want to play loud music, man. I mean, this is what it's about, right? Putting bass and jamming your favorite songs at high volume, so in your car. So that's kind of how it starts. And in high school, I was the guy that built stereos for people. A lot of my buddies, they're like, hey, Chris is into that, and he knows how to build a box. And so I get drug into building my friends' stuff here and there, and so get up here in College Station, after I graduated, come up here to go to college. Started getting my degree in architecture, and about, I guess, 3 or 4 months in, maybe wasn't even that long. I have no idea. There was a Circuit City here, had just opened. So a couple of my buddies that had moved up here, that were older than me, a few years ahead, they were already working there, and one of them was the S&I manager. So it was a no-brainer. They hired me. It was easy. I started part-time.
Did you work in the install bay there, or were you?
Oh yeah.
Yourselves install
day one in the install bay. So, our managers would pit us against each other, and who could solder up the harness the fastest, and the guy that lost, they'd cut it and make you redo it. And if you didn't do the alarm install exactly right, prepping your harness, they'd cut it and make you do it again. I mean, the total vicious stuff
they were serious about it back then.
Yeah. Yeah. There was a time back in the day when Circuit City was one of the best shops. There was a lot of great guys that have come out of Circuit Cities over the years.
Oh, yeah. I used
Gary
to spend
match. Yeah.
Lots of afternoons after high school going into Circuit City, just looking around, man. They had a great car audio section.
They did back in the day. I
managed to get maybe 1 or 2 trips into a Circuit City before the local one closed down.
Yeah, I can just name a few just of my buddies, Gary Bell, Matt Schaefer, Justin Cush, even, who works for me now, Phil Cantu, all of them worked at a Circuit City at one point or the other, and I'm sure there's a heck of a lot more than that. So it was a great place to learn, man. I mean, especially what I would consider like the troubleshooting and the basics of how to do it the right way. Cause these guys, they had one way of doing it, and that was that way. Everything was solder and tape or solder and heat shrink. So you learn those things and troubleshooting that you just, that guys now, installers coming out, they just don't get it. They don't know. And, they watch some YouTube stuff, but they just don't get it, and, we have a lot of techs here. And so it's the same problems. You have to teach these guys how to troubleshoot, how to wire things correctly, how to, basic electrical theory. So it was a great place to learn all those things. And so, just like everyone, you either you're a basic deck and two guy, or you start building boxes and doing custom work, and I was already doing that before I came there. So it just got worse and worse. And after 4 years, I think 5 years of being there, I was an S&I manager there of the shop, and I was doing custom installs out of my house. Kind of got tired of doing that. And local shop needed a fabricator, so jumped ship, went to work for a local shop. Was there about 8 months, and there were basically two big local shops that had really nice showrooms and decent install bays, and one was called Audio Video and the other one was called Sound Waves. I was working for Sound Waves, and the guys at Audio Video came up to me one night out at a bar, and they were like, "Hey, the owner wants you to come in and talk to you on Monday if you're willing." I was like, "Yeah, man, I'll come in. I mean, what the heck? What's going to matter, So he goes in there and he says, "Right." He says, "That's a blank check." He goes, "Tell me how much you need to make per year." He goes, "And I want you to come work for me." And he's like, "You ain't gotta work weekends if you don't want. You can tell me what you want to work," and so on and so forth. I was like, "That's cool." So, so I turned my notice in at the other place and left. And yeah, it was cool because that was really kind of, I was getting a little bit into competition at that point. Had gone to, USAC finals. I didn't compete, but I'd went and hung out and saw, a lot of my friends at IASC and USAC finals and met a lot of people. And, that was when it was a really big thing when you had 300 or 400 cars for sound quality.
I was about to say that was sound quality.
That was sound quality. So, and that's
well,
what I kind
of back then. I mean, the SPL side was, you had your Burp Extreme cars, but most of the cars that even competed in car audio in like the early 90s, late 80s were pretty much just all SQ cars. I mean, there were very few people pulling into the lanes just trying to burp a number. It had so much more to do with how nice your install was, how it sounded, all that stuff. Things have definitely changed on the competition.
Yeah, definitely not like that anymore.
Yeah, and a lot of the SPL guys back then, there was a lot of, I don't want to say there's not a lot of engineering now. There's a lot of you guys that have a ton of engineering in your systems, but back then it seemed like there was early on there was so much science and engineering that went into it because you had, Alma and you had Gary Biggs and you had, these guys, just trying to do stuff that really kind of hadn't been done at all, and
everybody being super secretive and not letting them see anybody.
Yeah. It was fantastic.
Yeah, there wasn't social media where everyone would just show everything they did all the time.
Yeah, I mean, there wasn't social media. We weren't sharing what we did every day in the bay. And
so the only way you would learn how to do it is to do it.
So I started went over to Audio Video, and I started going more to competitions, and I think I went to my first finals in 2000 maybe that I competed, something like that. And I had a Gen 3 RX-7, and it was really cool because I was bald, and Fast and the Furious had just came out, and I had a red Gen 3 RX-7 that had like 800 horsepower. So that was really cool, man. And so I built an SQ system, not a terrible car to build one in, but it was definitely more difficult than a Honda.
The Spear Chucker final.
No, I had no graphics. No graphics. None. No graphics on the side of mine. I spent a bunch of money on paint, but not on that. So yeah, and I went to my first finals, and I had a bunch of Mark Anthony tube amps in the back because they sponsored me, and Boston Acoustics Pro Components or something up front. I can't remember now because they sponsored me for that because that was some of the stuff that was sold at our shop, and yeah, man, they it sounded all right, but then a couple of my buddies said, "Man, you need to meet this guy Wilson." I was like, "You'd really like him," and he's out your way. And so Wilson came to me and goes, "Man, you want some help?" I was like, "Dude, I'd love some help because I really don't know what I'm doing." I was like, "I sort of know, but not enough to do well." And he got in there and turned some dials on my EQTs and changed a few things up on my audio control pieces. And I'll tell you what, lo and behold, we drug that car across through the lanes and got fourth place out of like 30 cars in the Pro 0 to 150 class. And I was super pumped. So at that point there, that was it. It was on, and I was into it full stream after that. So from that point, you start getting clients in it, and we started building clients up, and I spent more and more time down with Wilson Adcock at his shop, and Wilson was one of the first people to ever really teach me, about music and what I was listening for. And I know a lot about music being a musician, but what you're listening for in a 2-channel audio system. Sat me down and set up in front of us at $100,000 set of speakers and said, "Hey, this is what you're trying to do here. This is the goal, is to put this in the front of a car. So we spent a lot of hours doing that. And, you know, I got to be there when they tore apart the Reaper 1 and the Reaper 2 and, you know, these iconic vehicles. So it was a lot of fun. And, you know, you know, of course, being around those guys coming up, you know, you kind of, you know, you get their fault. I don't know, I guess they're biased. So, you know, of course, at that point it was, you know, they were all Team Cobra, which was like Mickey Bronis, Larry Traubel, you had John Pitts, you had Wilson Adcock and Nick Wingate and Del Fontenot. And so it was all these Southeastern Texas boys. And, you know, and they were, of course, always against all the kicker guys, and which was like Mark and Gary and all them. So it was always, you know, Wilson brought me up. It's like, your goal is always to beat Mark Eldridge. So I didn't even know Mark at the time. I mean, Mark graduated from A&M, but I didn't know him. He was way before my time. And so that was what I came up as Mark is the enemy. And so it was this funny deal as time progressed later on. But, you know, so, you know, we, you know, always did really well with my own vehicles, you know, but I never won a championship with my vehicle. I'd build trucks for, you know, we built some of the first trucks that won, you know, world championships in the SQ lanes. I think we did one of the first trucks to ever have full A-pillars. It's funny, actually, one of my guys posted up a picture from, I think, 03. And the year that we just totally annihilated everybody at USAC finals. I think we 4 or 5 championships and 2 best of shows, and everybody walked the stage. So it was a blast. And there were 2 trucks that we had, and they were great. You know, one had I think Utopia 7-inch, custom built Utopia 7-inch drivers and TLRs in the front. The other one was all ARC audio. That was my buddy Mike Loud and Modesto. So, you know, we just built more and more vehicles and kept doing it. I got to, you know, obviously became great friends with Mickey Bronis, and owe a lot of thanks to him introducing me to Nick, which everybody know me and Nick have been friends for ever and a day. And there's probably not a car of mine personally that hasn't won that Nick hasn't turned a dial in. So, so yeah, I mean, it, you know, it kind of grew from there. And, I think somewhere around, God bless, I don't remember at the time, maybe it was 04, 05, I decided I was going to build a car for the expert class. And, you know, and I built the car. It was, I got Orca to sponsor it. Had VX Chrome Shadow amps from Audison and all Utopia drivers. And man, so we roll in here and you got guys like Phil Petraka and Gary Biggs and Mark. And
is this the Civic, or which car is this at the time?
This is the Civic at this point. At this point, I bought the Civic in 01. So this is the Civic at this point. And it's all silver. And, you know, I did exactly what my boy taught me to do. I put 4 or 5-inch Focal subs in the dash, 2 on each side, stereo subs, and 6.5-inch Utopias in the kicks, and TLR tweeters in the pillars. Because that's what Wilson and them all did.
I bet that thing sounded good.
It was awesome. It was a blast, man. And it did what, I mean, dude, for rolling the expert lanes, you know, by myself, you know, me and Mickey and the rest of our team, but, you know, everybody takes care of their own cars, you know. We rolled in there and we managed to get, you know, 4th place. And for me, I was pumped, I mean, because these are guys that are way ahead of me and have been doing it a lot longer and won championships, and to me are the guys I look up to. And it was on that trip that I really got to know Gary Biggs a lot better. And, you know, me and Gary talking back and forth, and I was like, man, I really want to do a full custom dash, just not rework it like I've done. I want to do a full custom dash and all this stuff. And Gary's like, well, man, why don't we build it together? And I was like, okay. I was like, that sounds like fun. So I shipped the car up to Tulsa, and Gary got it. And I'm flying back and forth building the car with Gary. And somewhere in there, I graduated from college, and they were supposed to be a partner in audio video. We'd opened up a car only section, which was mobile toys. And they were supposed to make me a partner, and just things didn't work out for whatever reason, whether it wasn't fast enough for me, or I don't know, or who knows? I have no idea. But long and short of it is, I hadn't gotten a raise in a while, and, you know, and Rob Rice needed a custom guy, and Gary starts talking my ear up about how we're going to do these TV shows and stuff, and I need to come up there and help him, and we could finish the Civic up there. And so next thing I know, I'm heading to Tulsa. So I moved my whole life up to Tulsa and headed on up there and started working for Rob Rice at his shop, which was Car Toys of Tulsa, not the chain, but Car Toys of Tulsa. And yeah, so, you know, we get up there, and it's like being a part of this iconic, you know, lineage, because Gary had been there, and a lot of other great techs had come through that place and built some really cool stuff. And So Gary's feeding me jobs from JBL, because at that point he works for JBL, and he's feeding me Team JBL cars to do, and getting to build some really cool stuff. There was a PT Cruiser I did that it's crazy. It's actually still together to this day. I couldn't believe it. It's a distributor has it. Gary had sent me pictures not too long ago because, can you believe this thing is still together and playing? I was like,
same equipment too, the same JBL stuff.
Equipment you put in there?
I can't tell you if it's the original equipment or not. I don't know whether it is or isn't, but the install hasn't changed, other than having to change some LEDs out.
How many years ago was that?
It was at least I've been here for 13, so it was at least 16 years ago.
And the panels are all still
intact. Paint had lasted decently well, because of course we painted everything back then, fiberglass and paint, because I started working with Gary, and so that was it. It was, at that point everything was fiberglass and paint, stretch and fleece, and and sanded and itching, till you die. And there was nobody better at stretching a tub than Gary Biggs, and that I believe that is the truth. Most people would probably agree. And so, yeah, man, I was up there and got to work on the Regal a bunch, got to work on a bunch of project cars with Gary, learned a ton. Gary is, as far as fabrication, Gary is one of the ones that taught me the most, I got to learn a lot from him, and actually spend some time working with Mark Eldridge at that point. So I knew Mark at this point, and,
you weren't enemies anymore.
What?
You weren't enemies anymore?
No, we were never enemies. It's just, and I love Mark Eldridge to death, actually, and I think he's one of the smartest guys out there, and he's a badass. Let me get that straight. I mean, so the way my guy that I was always brought up is that if you want to be the best, you got to beat the best, and that's what you strive for, and I regard Mark as one of the best to ever do it. Period. End of story. And Mark learned from people that I only wish I could have learned from, And so, at this point, there was definitely never been any animosity between me and Mark. I love Mark to death. He could call me tomorrow. If he needed something, I'd drop it and I'd go help him.
There's just
in the lanes that we compete against each other, it was more. I mean, I'm not going to lie to you, but we never cussed each other. It was never an argument. We did our thing, and, the things turned out the way they turned out, and it is what it is. But, so I got to work on the NASCAR a little bit when he was first building it, which was a lot of fun. And I got to learn a little bit about how Mark does things, which was good. It's a very engineering based way of doing things, which is cool, because that fit with me. And it was while I was up there building stuff, obviously we finished the Civic, that I got into doing, running machines, which I already knew how to run CAD really well, and from college, and have an architecture.
Did you finish your degree in architecture, or did you
absolutely
switch it up?
Yeah, no, I did. I finished my degree in architecture.
Gotcha.
So yeah, I have a architectural engineering degree from A&M, and that's what we do. And I know every command in CAD. I can type it in. I learned CAD when I was in God bless, I was a junior in high school. I think CAD 2.
They had computers back then?
They did. Right next to the abacus, and it was a green screen. It was in DOS, so it was really cool. So you had to type it all in.
How old are you, Chris?
I don't think mine was
45.
45. Okay.
45.
I had CAD in high school as a sophomore, and I'm 47. So we had six. I mean, I was in the Bay Area. I was in Milpitas, California, right in the middle of Silicon Valley. So we had a bunch of 386s, and there was one 486 computer in the back corner of the computer lab. And I got that one because I was the most advanced CAD designing goober kid in the school.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's your 486, man. That was so fast back then. I remember when
we wanted to render something, you were like, render, enter, and then you'd have like pieces of paper, and it's like no touching, and you'd hide the mouse and all of that. Yeah.
So, yeah,
and then you come back the next day, and if it was done the next day, cool. If it wasn't, you just let it keep going, and then the next day.
In college, we did a lot of full animation renderings, and you'd slave together, 20 computers on the network, and you'd let them run for 24 or 48 hours, and literally you'd have to section them off and be like, hey, nobody touch your computers. It's gonna, just to try to render
ruin everything. One guy's like, what's going on here? Wiggles the mouse. It's like, oh, shit. It's over.
Back then it was over. That's it. They touched one thing.
You're like, we're done. Never mind. Let's just look at the wireframe. Fuck it.
Yeah, it's over.
I actually forgot about that. leaving your stuff to render overnight and hoping when you
Yeah.
came to class the next morning it was good. It didn't say
Yeah.
like error, stop 20%
Error,
through.
started over because your computers suck. That's exactly what it is. Like, oh man. So yeah, we got
What
into.
are y'all talking about?
I know.
You're too young.
Architectural degree, that explains how some of these awesome things that you make now are like where I guess where you come up with it. That kind of makes sense.
It was the closest thing A&M had to a design degree. A&M is an engineering school, an ag engineering school. It's what its background is. And I mean, of course, it's everything now, but they still don't have a true art design department. So the closest thing is the College of Architecture. So it made sense. I started off in aerospace engineering, and I thought I'd be cute and get out of all the math classes that I didn't want to take. So I get into architecture, and then somewhere or another, I decide I'm going to try to go into the Viz Lab, which the Viz Lab at A&M is super well known. They do, it's one of the premier computer animation and game designing departments. They're one of the colleges that invented it. You know, it's highly sought after by LucasArts and all that. So I got the wild hair. At that point, it was only a graduate program. So I was going to do that after, graduating. I was going to go off to to do that. And then got 3/4 of the way into it and realized that all those math classes that I was trying to avoid, I was going to have to take. So I ended up taking everything. And I was like, man, I could have just been an aerospace engineer. Oh, I had to take them all. It was terrible. It was horrible, especially when you spend 3 years avoiding it. So, yeah, so it was get up there and I met Gary introduced me to a guy named Abe who worked at Tulsa Plastics, and Tulsa Plastics, they had CNCs and water jets and I would send stuff over to be cut, and then Abe starts showing me how things are done. And then, next thing I know, I'm going up there at night and cutting stuff, and they're teaching, because they're like, hey man, why don't you just run this yourself and we'll just bill you. And I was like, all right, whatever. So I get into running machines then, and I guess that was 15 years ago. And so 16, 15, I don't know at this point. And yeah, I mean, everything, that's kind of how the whole machine side of what I do got started was back then. And, I'd obviously seen what Brian had done in the Frontier and read about it. And then obviously I've been friends with Jeremy Carlson for a little bit at this point because of going to competitions. And when I moved to Tulsa, I started doing more IASCA shows, and so we finished the Civic, obviously, and we take the Civic, to its first export competition. It's funny, the Civic's only ever lost once was
this center drive at this point? Or?
No, it's two seat. The center drive is another story later on, but it was 2 seats. And so it was funny. I was fully sponsored by Focal or Orca, and that was right where Orca split with Audison. And here I am with all these custom built Chrome Shadow amps and these custom built HV Venti Thesis amps they sent me. And I mean, I had an outrageous setup of product they'd sent me, and all their new, the new Utopia drivers had come out at that point. And then they come to me and they go, look, my car's supposed to be in their booth at CES, which, I mean, you guys know that it's like a rite of passage back in the day, to have a car, your own vehicle, go to CES and be on the floor. And it's like, yes, and they come and say, look, you can keep the amps, but if you keep the amps, it can't be in our booth at CES. And I'm just like, oh God. And I was like, what can I put in here? And I was like, oh, we got these new amps. They're called dual monitors, and they've got processors built into them. I'm like, okay, cool. And so they send me these amps, and they're huge, which are roughly the same size. So they fit right into the amp rack we designed. And man, I'll be damned if we didn't have the first 5 in the country and the first 5 that blew up. So they had a bad ground or something. When you plug the USB in, it just short the DSP unit on the front side. And they ship us 5 more out from France, and we burned up 2 of those. So we limped that car into the lanes with 3 of the 4 amps working, and jumper and speakers across me and Nick did. And Mark at this point wasn't competing, so it was a bunch of other guys, and we felt like we still had it locked. We could still pull it off. We had front subs. We said, man, we'll just run the front subs and front stage for SQ, and then we'll repatch the amps for SPL and run 2 amps for SPL, and we'll be all right. So my buddy Wilson had been helping another guy named Larry.
Do you remember what year this was?
Man, I don't know. I want to say it was 05, but I could be wrong. I think it may have been 05. What was Larry's? Larry had the alligator van. And so he was helping our buddy Larry. He had the alligator van with all these really awesome pneumatics in it, man. It's like, it was just, I mean, doors open and close with pneumatics. I mean, it was over the top cool.
Things used to move a lot more.
Yeah. I mean, it was an awesome show truck outside of just being a sound quality vehicle. And they had never been able to get it really sound right. And Wilson finally had it dialed in. And so they all decided, hey, let's jump into the expert class, because they knew my car wasn't totally ready to go. And I ended up losing to him by 10 points. I was madder than hell.
Oh, no.
The only time I ever lost with it as an expert car. But we went home. We
So it only lost once.
That's the only time it's ever lost ever in the expert class, with that paint job on it. It's like, that's what I told you, with that paint job on it. So we we go back and we make some changes to it. I think we left the focal front stage, and we changed the amps to JBL amps, because Gary was trying to get me into Team JBL at that point. I think we changed the amps to JBL amps, and we changed the rear sub to a big GTI 15 or something like that. And we came back next year and we won. And then the following year, which was I think the last year I was in Tulsa, we changed everything to JBL's, all their anniversary speakers and all that jazz. And that was actually the first year that Mark had the NASCAR out for a few years, but that was the first year he put in the lanes. And I think it was USAC finals in Dallas and over at the Cotton Bowl Exposition Center or whatever it was. And and so I'm nervous as can be. I'm wound up because of course I'm going against Mark, right? And my buddy Wilson had of course texted me, and of course back then text was on a Nokia phone. It was like comes across.
Was it like $5 a text?
It was DOS. Yeah, I don't even know, man. It was, anyway, so and and the judges went around, and you had 2 install judges, 2 sound judges, and yeah, man, I didn't know how that one was going to shake out, and when they called it all out, I beat Mark by 1 point.
A win's a win.
Win is a win, and that kind of started the whole thing at that point. We it was good at that point, and we had lots of cars out there competing and lots of clients out there doing well and building cars. And somewhere around this point, whenever I got the opportunity to come back to College Station and buy the shop back that I started, Mobile Toys, and me and my best friend got together and decided to buy it, and we started this venture the last 13, 14 years now. So
that was actually that was going to be what I jumped into. Like, all right, well, how did you get to this point? So you bought the shop from? Yeah, so Audio Video owned Mobile Toys, and it's funny because it was all in one building, but they're a really high-end home theater company, that's doing $10 million a year in business. So they're this piss-ass car audio shop, that's beneath them. But they don't want to close it because it'll look bad in the industry. And, he's friends with Mike Cofield and a bunch of other those big wigs, and he doesn't want to look bad to his buddies. So, it's not making enough for him to, but it's not making enough for him to put any effort into it. So, he basically tells one of the reps, he goes, "Hey, isn't Chris moving back to Texas?" And he goes, "Yeah, he's about to take a job in Dallas I was real good friends with Lee Teeples. He works at Wet Sounds now. He's worked for Rockford, and Lee is phenomenal fabricator. And so I was going to work with Lee Teeples at a shop called the Hack Shack, which is branded customs out of Dallas. So they called, they happened to catch me. I'd already made the decision I was leaving and getting the heck out of Tulsa and going home. And they give me a holler, and they were just like, "Hey, you want an opportunity to buy your shop back?" And I was like, come back to Texas. I was like, "I'm coming back to Texas, and you guys can't afford me, And they were like, "Well, no, we don't want to pay you to come back to Texas. We want to pay us to come back. We want you to buy your shop back, or buy the shop and come work here." I was like, "Man, I'm broke." I was like, "I can't afford that shit." So he said, and so I hear Gene in the background, and Gene Joyce is who owns Audio Video, and he's always like, he goes, go get your Asian buddy and get his dad, and y'all meet me here in Texas in a week. And he goes, "I'll make you the deal of a lifetime." I was like, "Okay." So that's what we did. We drove down there a week later and met him, and he basically gave us the shop for basically nothing. I mean, take it over and pay him rent and just pay off what he had in gear, which wasn't a whole lot. And and so I'm sure it worked out great for him because he had a great tenant for 12 years.
So
was that the original at the
the original location down right down from campus. So
at what point? We're probably gonna skip over a whole bunch of stuff, but we could be here for months going over all the stuff you've done. At what point did you start getting into the underseat enclosure things, or like that side of? So, because that's how I heard of MTI originally, was the underseat enclosures, and then the first Aggieland event I went to years ago.
So as things progressed, and the sound quality became, and obviously we built the center drive Civic and so on and so forth. That's a whole other story, but as things progressed, we started spending more times going to big car and truck shows because they, to me, were more fun. And so we started, building more lifted trucks. Obviously, it's Texas, and lifted trucks are a big thing. And so we started building cool boxes for lifted trucks. It's probably, I don't know, 8-9 years ago.
Really?
And
I felt it'd be longer than that.
And so, well, I mean, we were building boxes for trucks all the time, but the stuff with the rounded corners probably started 8 or 9 years ago is when we really started pushing. We started, doing a few of those here and there. And it was a big deal, about doing that stuff and, just what, build a box that fit the shape of vehicle. Of course, you had JL stealth boxes and all that jazz at this time.
Steve, if you go to the Mobile Toys Inc. Facebook, you can see a bunch of their latest stuff. And there's a particular enclosure, which apparently was here when I arrived, and he was loading the truck up to leave.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, the F-150, I think it was.
No, well, that one was today was a GMC. It looked very similar to the Super Duty that we posted.
Mm-hmm.
It was very, very similar. It's called the Freeman box.
Yeah, so we start building more and more of them, and it was about 6 or 7 years ago, maybe. We we had somebody, I don't even remember who it was or where it was, but somebody messaged us online and wanted to order one, and we were just like, okay. And I mean, and of course, as a shop owner, you don't want to say no. I mean, because money's money. So we build a box and ship it. And it gets there safely and it doesn't get tore up.
Go up a little bit, Steve. Click on any of those that are lit up right there on the right.
Click on, that one's a good one.
Yeah, Edgar just did that one. Yeah, Edgar and the crew just did that one.
That is a gorgeous.
We built that one for Giovanni's new Ford.
So are all your boxes, are they all custom, or do you have some just straight up off the shelf? This is for an F-150.
We don't do. I mean, obviously, we have designs for everything, and there are some designs that get reused. But we do not have a single box sitting on our back shelf that is like, hey, this person wanted a 210, whatever, send it out. There are no boxes on our back shelf. We do not build a box till somebody orders it, and whatever they order is what we build. So we are. I mean, for lack of a better, we really are a true custom box manufacturer. We will build you whatever you want. I don't have a bunch of boxes sitting on the back shelf. I have big pallets of wood and a bunch of machines and the materials that I use to build them. And we don't build it till the client orders it. Period. End of story.
Can't confirm, because I just ordered that Tacoma box months ago now.
Yep.
And y'all hadn't touched it. Y'all were able to spec out exactly how the dude wanted it, because it wasn't just sitting.
So yeah, I mean, we and so and I think Bobby can attest to this more than just about anybody else, is 1 turns into 2, turns into 10, and and then I had a shop bot back then, because Jeremy Carlson had a shop bot, and that's what I knew to do. So Jeremy is one of the guys I look up to very much.
A CNC?
That's a CNC.
Okay, just a brand name, or
it's a CNC. It's more of a hobbyist machine, I guess, compared to what we all run now. But it's a solid machine. It's something that's upgradable. You can change the parts on it. You can learn. It's a little bit, I wouldn't say open source, but kind of open source. You can change over the software. So, I wanted to get a little bit better machine, and how things work between me and my business partner is if to buy a new machine, it's got to be able to make money. And so, I wanted to buy a Cam Master, and I was like, I'd done some research, and some of my friends were like, hey, this is cool. And they had good experiences with them. And it's American-made machine with American tech support, which to me is super important. And so business partner's like, man, if we can sell, 2 or 3 of these a month, that'll cover the cost of the machine. And then we'll have the machine for doing, custom stuff for, big builds or interiors, whatever. Cause we were also starting to do, more and more interiors at that point. And so, you go for it, and then you build a website, and next thing you know, you're putting more and more, you're getting, boxes in the right people's trucks. And, we've gone to truck shows for, God bless, 20 years, and so everybody knew us as the audio guys. And, and so, it just kind of one of those things that blew up. You get some, big SEMA builds out there. And at that point, having the interior and the audio done up in a SEMA truck, big lift to SEMA truck, was not what it is now. And now it's a foregone conclusion. You're getting it done, and it wasn't back then. And so yeah, I mean, we kind of helped push that. We had 3 or 4 trucks that ended up on the cover of Truckin' Magazine, and and it just kind of blew up. It was one of those things that wasn't planned. It wasn't at the front end. It wasn't like, man, we're going to build this custom box building company and all these acoustic impediments that you can install, A-pillars and all these parts that we do. It was really, hey man, we want to get a new CNC. How do we pay for it? And and that was it. And next thing I know, we're hiring people to build to build our boxes, and we're designing our own parts for our boxes. And then we have to rent out a 5,000 square foot space and add another machine and some other lasers, and and just it grows, and it takes on a mind of its own. Next, 100 turns into 300 or 400. And some months it's 600. It just depends.
600 boxes.
Yeah, we've had months we've done 600 or 700 boxes in a month. Holy, it depends. We do a lot of production orders for manufacturers. There's 2 or 3 manufacturers we actually build all their boxes for them. Okay. So we design them and then ship them out and all that jazz. So
well, I saw a post of yours maybe last week about a SEMA truck that you're going to build. This big white thing that I saw. You want to tell us a little bit about that, or what you got planned for that thing?
Yeah, so that is going to be for,
there it is.
Justine
Wolf. So Justine has her own clothing company and off-road company, and she's pretty, I guess, pretty famous in the off-road community. And so yeah, we're going to come into that one. It's going to be all kicker. So we're going to do, I think, a bunch. The hope is that we will get some of the Solo X8s, is what I'm hoping. We'll see what I can sweet talk out of them.
That would be nice.
So we'll do a bunch of the Solo X8s under the seat. We'll probably do it like a 3.5 inch or something under the back seat, and so we can get a ton of airspace out of it. So we can get a nice big ported box, and I'll probably get old boy here to design it up for me, draw me up something cool.
Yeah.
And then we'll put our look on it and put some lights, and we'll do the door panels. We're going to come in and do a bunch of marine. Probably marine stuff in the door panels. So she wants to get loud. So, they're going to do a bunch of marine, and we'll do some crazy A-pillars, ton of programmable lights, like tons, like a lot.
Yeah, a lot.
a lot. If it don't look like Vegas when she gets it, I'm going to be disappointed. So there'll be a bunch of 3D scanning done on it. We'll do a bunch of, 3D printing, 3D milling on it. It'll be badass. There ain't no doubt about it.
I can guarantee she already has the rock lights and the wheel lights.
Oh yeah, she's got all
caliber lights, bro. They go crazy with these lights. Yeah. So I'm gonna detour real quick. So our build of the week from last week, Jeffrey Halt's car. That is Jeffrey.
That is Jeffrey right there. There's
Jeff.
There's Jeff.
What up, man?
So I was thinking about this a second ago. If you combine my and Jeffrey's years of experience, it still may not be as long as Chris has been doing it.
I don't think it is.
Yeah.
Probably not.
Well, and it's impressive considering Chris is only 35. But
I wish.
Yeah, no, it's awesome working under Chris, and he's got a ton of experience that I draw off of, and I bring a good amount here myself, and it's kind of funny because we have very opposite opinions on a lot of things, but when you combine the two of us, it's kind of like one of those things where good luck. So,
but I mean, sometimes the best stuff comes from whenever two people agree on everything, you never venture out away from the exact thing you're agreeing on. So as long as you can civilly disagree on things.
I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, I tell people I'm a guy that collects stuff. So I like to collect gems and minerals and fossils. I like to collect classic trucks and robots and smart people. So
Robots.
I love my robots and my smart people. So yeah, I will tell you right now, I'm not. I mean, I've done stuff and that's great, but I mean, what MTI is now would be nothing without the people that work here. I mean, obviously, y'all know Jeffrey and Jeffrey's accomplishments, especially in the short time he's really been in the industry, more or less on and off, as a hobby and then full time now. And then obviously you have, some of our amazing staff, and we have some phenomenal techs and fabricators and designers. Obviously, Justin Cush, David Cruz. Both.
How many employees do you have, Chris?
Huh?
How many employees do you have?
Bays. How many bays? We have
employees.
We have, so it's a big open area. So at any one point, if you're want enough room to do jumping jacks and cartwheels, there's generally you have room for 12 vehicles inside. So as far as employees, I have 34 employees.
What?
34.
Yes. 34 between all three branches of the company.
Right here. So I've only.
Sorry. I was saying with 400 to 600 boxes a month, I figured you got to have a good amount of staff.
On the production side, we have 18 employees on the production side.
Yeah.
18 employees building boxes, wrapping boxes, lasering and finishing and assembling, doing final assembly on boxes, and obviously the shipping department, and then obviously our purchasing and stuff like that for the gear.
That is a mind-blowing amount of what is essentially very expensive enclosures going out. That is
It's so much more than I thought. I mean, I know 400 to 600 a month. I had no clue it was on that kind of level.
Well, that's part of what leads into whenever I talk to the base ed community. I try to tell them that the base ed community is such a small part of the audio industry. It's microscopic, on its best day. Whenever people are like, ask them, what's the biggest audio company? They all say Scar or Sundown or something like that. Like, they're the audio industry, even in just the U.S. is.
Shoot, I mean, I don't know. I've never been, and I know you have their old bearded one, but I've never been to John Robbie's place. But of course, Skaggs, who works for me, has been there on more than a few occasions, and I think old John's got it on lock. I mean, I've only talked to John via Messenger and text messaging, but I tell you what, I mean, when it comes to doing the stuff that we all do, I mean, John's gotten down.
Yeah, he definitely hit a whole new stride these last couple of years. It's just
there ain't no doubt about it.
Exponentially grown, and it's awesome because John's a great dude. I love
going. He is, yeah.
A couple times a year, he hooks everybody up at the barbecue. We get to have a great time, and he gives back, and he's just moving forward all the time. It's good.
He's on the loud side. He is the Crutchfield of that side. I mean, because from what I can tell, he kills it. I mean, he crushes it. Does just really well.
And then even as big as we think it is, it's probably even larger. We just don't know it.
Oh, dude, I've seen pictures and stuff just from him, and then obviously Skaggs going over there and stuff like that. I'm just going, oh my God. I was like, the amount of money just in inventory, and I've got a lot in inventory, and I go, that's way more than I got. And so yeah, I mean, dude, it's
Bobby could definitely chime in on that one. I mean, I've seen
John's my fucking hero, man.
It's amazing.
John's the man, dude. I fucking love that guy. I'm like, I got like an open PO with John. He's like, oh, you think of something cool? Just build it. Bring me some. I'm like, oh, okay. Like I think of a lot of cool shit. Are you sure? He's like, yeah, keep doing it. I'm like,
yeah, just start building, drop it off with an invoice on the dash. It'll be fine.
Yeah. Dude, I'm a fan. I ain't gonna lie. What he does is impressive. So I mean, is very, very impressive.
So I kind of want to circle back real quick to the Center Drive Civic. Whenever I heard it for the first time, it was Focal subs, I think, and Focal front stage. Was that the first iteration of the Center Drive build?
Yeah, I think when you heard it, it was the first iteration when it was when I was still actually competing.
Gotcha. So
yeah.
So
and if it had Ultimates in it when you heard it, then it wasn't. I wasn't competing in it anymore. So because when I was competing, it had the old Utopias in it.
I have to dig a picture of, but every time I share, I have a photo from dead center in the back of the Civic that just shows the fact that it's center drive and everything. Every time I share it, it goes pretty viral in the community because most people haven't ever seen anything like that.
And the Civic's all full cow.
It was at that point. It is. It isn't now. I mean,
What is it
so
now?
I mean, I own it again, which is weird. So it's another weird story. But
that Civic
I didn't own it for a little while, for the last year and a half, and now I own it again. Oh, weird.
That was the first sound quality vehicle I ever heard.
I kind of
low standards.
Yeah. That'll screw you up.
Taylor Gardner convinced me to come drive up here to go to the Aggie Land event. That might have been one of Brandy's first shows as well.
Yeah,
that was one of her first shows, and we're hanging out, and he was gracious enough to let us both get in and take a listen to it. And I was just like, "That's it. That's the best sound I think I'm ever going to hear. Got it. That's it." That was definitely like it shifted my whole perspective of what a car could be, and that has led to, I guess now we're here.
Yeah, I'd love to hear it sometime. I've only heard two like real SQ builds, and one of them was Jeff's at the Knowledge Fest in Dallas like 4 years ago, maybe. And the other one was a TDH. I don't even remember whose car it was, but I know the guy was, at least when they announced him, he was a multiple time national champion. You guys probably know who he is. It was like a 60-something Impala. Just had a few speakers in it, but it sounded amazing.
Most of the great sounding cars don't have that many speakers. From what I've seen, I could be way wrong.
Well, I mean, I think it's all relative, but from what he had, I just couldn't believe that a car stereo could sound like this. Like it literally sounded like a concert.
That's how I felt last time I was here. I don't know, a couple of months ago when I heard Jeff's car for the first time. I didn't think a sound quality vehicle could be that impactful and that energetic, I guess is the best way to put it. Because I don't remember like at that point what the Civic sounded like originally, but I'm sure it probably sounded better.
Yeah. So
sorry,
Steve. The build that you heard is a long way away from where it is now. I just want to say that. But the Civic is like no other car. It doesn't even sound like a car. It sounds like a studio room. It's really, really strange. It's so unbelievably good, and the stage is so unbelievably big, and it still has a ton of balls behind it. I mean, it'll part your hair when you ask it to. It will. But my car sounds like a car. The Civic does not sound like a car whatsoever. It's a really good car though, but it doesn't sound. My car absolutely sounds like a car.
I mean, when you explain it like that, that's how that Impala sounded. Was it the TDH? I think the guy won so many SQ awards at the show, but he would, like I said, he's a multiple time national champ, and it was like you saying, it sounded like the stage was huge, and it was just a couple speakers under the dash. Some was it Stevenson horns? I think. Does that sound right? Stevenson?
Yeah, the Stevenson horns are pretty fucking amazing.
Okay, Stevenson horns under the dash, 2 8s, and then Audio Frog 10 in the back. And like you said, Jeff, it just sounded like so wide, so big. Like it didn't sound like a car. It's the first time I ever heard a car sound like that. I just couldn't believe it that a car could sound like that. So
that's how I felt hearing the Civic for the first time. I understood that it had been modified to the point where you were sitting center in a Civic. I understood that. But it still sounded so much larger than the car itself was that my brain couldn't quite handle it back then. I mean, I still can't quite comprehend like Jeff's car currently, how big and open it sounds as compared to like my truck. My truck sounds great, but it's just
let me ask you, Chris and Jeff, is that kind of the goal when you're building SQ cars, to try to make this sound stage just sound as big as possible, or is there some particular you're really trying to go for?
Sat back here.
So, I mean, this is the deal. So there is a lot of interpretations of what you should do, what you shouldn't do, what it should sound like or shouldn't sound like or should, or so on and so forth. So, and I think a lot of that has to do with, you know, what your background is. You know, so I've been a touring musician for most of my life. Obviously I played in rock bands, still do to this day. Play guitar, and I'm a singer. And so I've been on big stages in front of big crowds, and I've been in small shitty venues in front of small crowds. And so all that is relative in knowing what instruments sound like. I marched in the band in high school, played trombone for, God bless, 10, 12 years. So, and so knowing what different instruments sound like, and knowing what different horns sound like, and really having that ingrained in your memory to where when something comes out, you go, no, that saxophone does not sound like that. That's not right. And then being able to correlate that to a frequency, a group of frequencies, and then how to fix it. At the end of the day, the goal is to recreate the track.
Yeah.
And so whatever the track is, if it's a close mic track in a small room, then it better sound like a close mic track in a small room. If you're listening to the Eagles' Hell Freezes Over, shoot me. And Hotel California for the 800 millionth time, shoot me again. It better sound like it's in a stadium, because that's where it was recorded. So, and that in and of itself is the algorithm that is hard to solve, because trying to make things sound the way they should is what is so difficult in a car, and it's so much easier in a house because of all the reflections and all the different materials and the different functions that you have to fight to try to do that. And of course, it's gone a lot better with different softwares. Obviously, the JL Max is a great tool, and a lot of other great tools to help us defeat some of those things easier. But it's still a battle and a trade-off, as Jeffrey found out this past week. Sometimes you have to trade things off to get other things. Sometimes it's better to sacrifice a little bit of imaging to get a little more tonality. And that's what car audio is. Car audio is always a trade-off. What are you trading off to get this? What are you trading off to get that? So round all the way back to, is that the goal? Sure. If that was the track you were listening to and it was supposed to sound big and huge, like if I'm listening to Lamb of God and I want it, and Lamb of God, as the recordings tend to sound, are massively sounding recordings with, 30 or 40 guitar tracks layered over top of each other with massive drums with a lot of processing. It should sound huge. It should come across huge on the stage. But if you're listening to Norah Jones, well, she's not going to sound huge a lot of times. Most of the time, she's going to sound really, small room, small, jazz club vibe with a close mic. So it just depends on the music you're listening to. And the key to a great sounding system is being able to reproduce that. And so, that's important.
Are you trying to build a system that can play all of these different things?
Yeah, absolutely.
What's thrown at it? So you're not trying to basically build something around one certain. Because like you said, all tracks are recorded differently. So how do you get around tuning your system to actually play everything correctly? It seems like almost impossible.
I'll chime in on this one, but basically you hit the nail on the head before I said it. The goal is to not change a single preset. If you have a good sounding car, you don't change presets. You let it rip tater chip and it plays everything. Getting that target curve is a process. I've been working on my target curve for 2 years now, and Chris and I compared target curves 2 days ago. So, ultimately it comes down to how good your system is, how good you are at tuning, and what your target curve look like. Because even if you have a JL Max, if you have the wrong target curve, it's going to sound like poo.
I'll tell you this. I don't do different tunes. So, and I haven't in a very, 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 very long time. Point blank, when a system is right, it's right. And when it can reproduce tracks, it can reproduce tracks. And the way that I have tuned systems for years, and this comes down to a lot of stuff that I've learned under Nick Wingate over the last 15, 20 years, and stuff I learned from Wilson before him, is when you get it dialed and when the speakers finally break in and everything's settled, which happens over time. But once you get it tuned, you shouldn't have to change anything. The only thing you might want to change is if you're listening to some rap and you want a little more go on a Saturday night, well, you got a bass knob for that. But other than that, we don't change tunes. I may, do a separate preset if someone wants no time alignment. So if they've got, a passenger, they're not getting all right side listening to a driver's seat tune, but
passenger will be just fine.
Yeah. So, I mean, at the end of the day, yes, I can promise you this is not a vehicle that comes out of our shop that can't play anything. I can go straight from Nora Jones to Lamb of God to Rage Against the Machine to Tupac, and it will be fine. It will do anything you want it to do, period. And that's one of my demos I did in my F-250 before we tore it down. Now I got to build a new one. Before we tore it down, I had 6 tracks spanning different genres of music, and I wouldn't change a single preset. I wouldn't change my sub-bass control or nothing, and I would crank it nearly wide open. And Jeffrey can attest to this.
Yep.
And it blew everybody's mind. And I'd always end with Lamb of God, Wraith. And they would just be like this, what in the world? And I was like, and it's like 10 miles wide, and I'm playing 2 or 3 tracks on the front of that album. And they're just like, and then these people that are not into that, which I'm totally into metal, and they're just like looking at me like, man, what record is that? That is an awesome. And it is a great recording in and of itself. It's a fantastically recorded metal record. Not all of them are. Actually, most of them are pretty terrible. But that one is fantastic, especially when you have it in lossless and high res. And dude, if it kills it. And so if a system is dialed and tuned correctly, it can do all of that without changing anything. Yeah, I think that's the name of that album.
And one of his demos is something that you guys may or may not have heard of. It's Put On from Young Jeezy. You might have heard that track. Again, without changing presets, sounding proper, bass imaging in the front, in the dash, and he could shake side view mirrors. So SQ car sounding boring and flat is not a thing.
I mean, if it can't jam going down the road, then I don't want to do it. I mean, there was a time, early on doing SQ, we're like, oh man, you got to do this and that. Man, I can tell you right now, if it don't jam, cardio is supposed to be fun. Cardio is supposed to jam. If it don't jam, there ain't no fun in it. Period.
Hey Bobby, does your truck jam?
My shit's loud as fuck, man. I'm not playing. That shit's got to hurt a little bit, or I don't like it. My experience with SQ cars, and it's not much, man, but like it first is I was at Surf, and there was a guy that was competing in the SPL stuff, and he was an SQ guy. And when he was giving me like the SQ version of his demo, it was so quiet. I was like, can we turn it up? And he was like, well, that's kind of where it is for the SQ like judging. And I was like, oh, okay. Is everybody about that loud? He's like, usually. And I was like, really? And then I wandered over to where the SQ stuff was going on, and I asked a couple guys if I could hear any of their cars, and they told me no. I was like, I don't know what to say. I guess I'm gonna not bother hanging out over here. It was like, we can't play over here. It was kind of a bummer experience for what I had. And then I was at a training seminar at a local shop, and this guy had this like competition SQ system, and everybody was getting in and out, and they're like, that's amazing, it was outstanding there. And I was like, I didn't know that thing was fucking playing standing outside of it. I can't imagine it being that amazing. I got in, and it sounded really pretty, but it had no output. But that is
not the case here.
I didn't think so. What you described about Jeff's build and what I'm hearing Chris say sounds like it's what
you must
I
not
need
have heard
to
a good
experience.
The first time I heard Jeff's build, I said this a couple months ago. He played this track called Cannon Fire, I think, or Cannon.
No, it's 1812 Overture. It has Cannon Fire at the end.
That. Anyway, it felt like an actual cannon went off in the vehicle.
See, I need that.
I was like, bro, what was
I
that?
need that SQ experience.
Well, and then I was like, hey, what's it sound like with the rear subs on? He's like, oh, they're on. I'm like, no. I didn't feel anything from back here. They're not on. He's like, oh no, they're on. And he played and they were moving, but it's so dialed in I couldn't tell that they were on. Everything was like impactful in front of me. That was quite an experience.
That's one thing.
Yeah. See, I need to like come and hang out with you guys. I need to go to some real SQ shows. I mean, Surf City's SQ stuff is relatively medium large scale. Is this a deal for any of these guys?
Travis Chin puts that on. He does a great job. Yeah,
I mean, I just like I you know, it was the first year that I had attended, and they had the whole thing going on over there, and it was relatively early in the morning. There was a bunch of guys standing around with their hands in their pockets, chatting with each other. Me and a buddy of mine were walking through. It wasn't like I was some drunk guy, all like, you know, being, I'm gonna get in your car. I mean, I was just a dude wandering through, and I'm peering in windows, and I was like, hey, when do you guys want to show off your sound systems here? And like, oh, I'm not going to run it right now. And we can't run it because those guys are going to be judging over there. And I'm like, they're not right now. You know, I was like, okay, cool. Thanks. I was like, never mind. I was like, I didn't want to like be weird and push it. And I walked off. My buddy Will was like, what the fuck? Why would they say no? You know, and then the other vehicles I heard, I'm like, man, is this really what we're dealing? And I had a customer that I worked on his car. I built him an amp rack. I built him some A-pillars and ran some wires for him. And he did a bunch of the install stuff himself. And he you know, he came back. You got to hear this thing. It's amazing. And he had his true amps and all his fancy stuff. And I was not happy with how loud it was. I was pretty, I was like, damn, man, I'm like, I really need somebody for real.
Yeah.
I need to hear.
I need to hear a good one, dude. Because like,
I mean, maybe just I had a run of bad luck with regards to those kind of guys, and I was like, man, like let's fucking hammer this thing.
Look,
do it.
The mid bass that you hear from a proper SQ car blows your mind. You're like, how does a 5.5 or 6.5 inch speaker have that much impact, and how do I get my 6.5s to do that? Like, it's you just haven't heard a good one.
So
it's
Bobby,
the hardest thing to do, right? You know,
Bobby, next time they have a big event, you fly into Houston, because it should be pretty cheap to fly into Houston. On my way in, I'll pick you up, and I'll bring you to these guys just to show you what a proper fun SQ car is.
I'm in.
Bobby, I'm
or they
could
bring them to the showdown.
What's up?
Bobby, I'm going to tell you something. When I debuted my car a year and a half ago, there was a thing where we were keeping track of demos. And some SQ guys will go, you know, I can't demo it until judging and all that. Well, my car clips at volume 51. I played it at volume 52 for 74 demos straight the first day and about 40 demos the second day. And I was kicking people out to get judged. So and you can ask Drew how loud it is at volume 50. It rips.
He didn't do that.
That sounds awesome. And it probably smelled like hot speakers in there and shit. It's my style. I dig it.
And he didn't do that last year. I'm just letting y'all know I was at finals.
No.
See, because there's a difference. When you go to finals, you go to win. And then that's all that matters. But you ain't giving demos at finals. But everywhere else, you can demo shit all you want. Fucking light that shit on fire. That's the way I put it.
This was a large SQ show, but it wasn't finals. He's right. When you go to finals, it's like, hey, I'm gonna chill out for now. But at that show, I absolutely sent it. Yeah,
dude. You come on down, man. We'll go get some barbecue and a beer, and we'll turn some music on. And see, that's what it's about. If it don't jam, there ain't no reason to do it.
He'll have to warm the Civic up for you so you can listen to it.
Yeah, so the Civic has a bunch of True Technologies amps in it that were all custom built for me. But I can promise you can full send mine. You can full send mine all day long, and she will rip.
So last time I was here, you mentioned you have to warm it up.
It's Class A amp, so you want to let a class. I mean, they'll play at turn on.
Yeah.
I mean, but a Class A amp, a true Class A amp, needs you to really be dynamic and to open up. You want to let the amp warm up. Get a little.
How long does it take to do that?
That's my next question.
5-10 minutes.
Okay. Hold on, it's going to be an hour and 45 minutes. We'll go get lunch and
I
back and I'll listen.
Heat the oven, y'all. Hang on a
second.
Two songs. She's ready to rock, man.
It's like an oven. Yeah, it's all beep 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 beep. It's ready.
It comes up
French fries now or whatever the fuck.
Actually, comes up. Your car is ready to play.
Oh.
Yeah.
Or should just start playing. That'd be kind of cool. Like, oh shit, hey, here it goes.
Hey, there it goes. It's ready to go.
I'm surprised you just don't have something in there that keeps them at the perfect temperature all the time.
Oh man, I probably could. That sounds like a lot of work.
and that sounds like a really
lizard heaters under each amp and shit. Where's my lizard heaters?
Well, once you get it up to temp, it's fine. He had it up to temp the whole entire day at finals. Like he basically make sure everything was good. Okay, judge, get in. I mean, it wasn't a process, but in the morning, sure, you kind of want to let it do its thing for a second.
So how often do people come in and they want to hear the Civic?
Not as often as you would think. Most people are scared of it. They looks like the car from Tron. And so they generally walk over to it and they look at it and they feel like if they touch it, they're going to get yelled at.
I mean,
which there probably was a time, but it's far less now. If one of my trucks is on the floor, I will kill you for touching those. But the car, I don't care about.
Where is the Civic? Does it sit in your showroom?
It's like 6 feet that way.
It's on the other side of the wall.
I could take 2 steps and touch it.
Yeah.
What's in the Civic for us that don't know? What do you have in there?
Can you pull that email up that I sent you about? I sent a couple photos of the back of it and one of the door. I didn't get any of the interior, I don't think. But there's a picture of the back of it, just so people can kind of get an idea of what we're talking about.
At the moment right now, there's prototype speakers in the front I can't discuss. But in the back, it's for True Technologies Class A amplifiers that John Yee custom built. It's got a set of Raven 12s from Orca. It's got a Moscani 8 to 12, all off the shelf stuff, nothing crazy.
Let's back up for 1 second. So what am I looking at right now? Obviously subs, but are these the amps on the left?
Those are the amps. Yeah, those are the amps. John Yee built those. Those are some of his, God bless, I hate that I don't remember which model they are, but billets. Those are the billet series. And John Yee built all 4 of those. They're all 4 Class A's. So there's even a Class A on the subs.
Give me a second. I'll go take a better picture of the interior.
Since it's right
what type of enclosure you got there, Chris?
Sealed. It's a sealed box. Sealed box, 2 cubic feet. So it's a hatchback car. It don't take a whole lot to get it going. It was a lot of fun back in the day when I was competing and we did SPL, because in USAC you did SPL. So back when I had the 18 ported in it, she could do a 151 on the kick. So, and which was pretty badass. And then in my Suburban that I used to compete in the expert class too, she could put out a 148, 149 in the kick with 412s ported. So
those were ported? I thought those were sealed.
Nope. The 412s were ported. The vents were under the amp rack. That's why if you look on the pictures of the Suburban that I built, that I used to compete in 2-seat with 2-seat expert, there's a vent under the amp rack, and that was actually not for venting the amps. That was for the port that was hidden under the amp rack. Huh. So
is this 212s or is it
212s? Yeah, it's 212s.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And then the front stage is all prototype stuff from Italia Hi-Fi. So
I don't think you sent me any front stage stuff.
No, it's completely hidden.
Okay.
But he can send you a picture of it.
Yeah, it just looks like really, really nice speaker grills. But
basically this, I don't know if you can see my cursor or not. Oh, these sections up here, right above the.
Yep.
Okay. Okay.
I just sent the email. You should have it.
Is there anything in the doors?
Do what?
Are there anything in the doors, or is it all just
absolutely not.
in the dash?
No.
Okay, it's all dash.
doors are terrible.
The door, there are no door speakers in it.
Must still be sending.
The strange thing about this is we sold it. So the Civic was one of those things where I kind of got to the point where it was time for it to go to somebody else, and decided to sell the thing. And obviously we Greg at Italia Hi-Fi was looking for a car to kind of make a splash, and so he bought the car and then paid us to rebuild it. And so we rebuilt it with those pieces that you see in his I think they're BL6s up front is what it is. The BL6s, whatever the top end component is. And I'd actually no intention of competing in the car ever again. And so it's just the whole competition side of it. I'm hyper competitive as it is, and I get wound up at a show, and I don't like doing that anymore. I mean, and I do a lot of big national truck shows, and that's really kind of my thing. And so I just, to me, it's like I don't want to do it anymore. So, anyways, of course, SEMA was a mess this year. We didn't go to SEMA, and so we end up going. He talks me into going to finals, and he says, "I'll pay for the trip. I'll pay for everything. I'll pay you to be there. I want you to run the car through." And kind of one of the things that he had joked about when he was drunk, he's like, "Man, I just want you to win a championship again with it. That way I can pump everybody up about it." And, and I'm like, I don't really want to go. But then he talks me into going, which money does that. And, and anyways, so, and we were available that weekend, and I love John. I love Greg to death, and I love Dan Merritt, of course. He was big into talking me into going to, and he's one of my close buddies, and so we end up dragging this thing on. I don't even remember where finals was, in Arkansas somewhere.
Yeah, Bentonville, Arkansas.
This was when, this year, this last year.
This year, yeah. So we drag it up there, and yeah, man. I mean, she does what she does. She scares people, and that's what she always has done. I've told everybody, if you're not going to build a center drive car and do what we do, you're not going to beat her. And she's awesome. She won, I think, second highest Emma score of all time, and second highest IS score behind old Scott Bawalda.
And that's how it sits right now.
And that's how she is at this point. The interior. So at this point, I had told Greg I would like to buy the car back at some point if he ever sells it. And Greg mouths off drunk one night. He's like, hey, I just want to win a championship with it. And after that, I don't know how to drive the damn thing anyway. So you can just keep the car. And I go, okay. So we won too. And so I was like, I wonder if it's really mine. Well, at this point, the title's never left my safe, and I still carry the insurance on the car. So I'm kind of like, kind of still mine, but it's not. And so so anyway, as long as short it is, I told him, I was like, that's it. I'm never running it again. I'm out. I'm not doing it. So they were like, well, we want to put some other amps in, and we'll take these amps. I'm building a car for Dan Merritt for him. Really awesome vehicle and badass expert car for him. And I was like, man, well, we want to use those amps in there. We're going to give you some other amps. And I was like, no. I was like, we needed to discuss something now. If the car's mine, I was like, those amps are staying, and I will get you something else. If the car is yours, I'll put whatever you want in it. I will bill you, and then it's going to your shop in Dallas, not mine. I was like, so we need to decide this now. I was like, no hard feelings. I'm cool either way. And they said, well, what are you going to get him? I said, I will get you something nicer than these amps if you give me the car. He's like, okay. And they said, we'll talk to Greg and we'll call you back. A few hours later, they text me, car's yours. Figure it out. I was like, oh, okay. So I had just gotten in 4 custom built wave amplifiers that I'd ordered for my new truck. And so I was like, well, these are right here. So these are about 40 grand in amplifiers. So I was like, well,
holy shit.
Hey Dan, I got you new amps. Here you go. Here, I give him my car.
40 grand. Yeah.
40 grand a piece. And that is that the ones that are in there now?
The ones that are in there now are the same billets, billets that have been in there. I didn't want to change the install. I mean, the car sounds phenomenal. It's the best it's ever sounded right now. And it's a phenomenal experience. And for me, the bigger thing, more than just how it sounds, is so we have a phenomenal staff, and I've said that multiple times, but we don't generally get to build together. We're all on different projects, especially those of us that do interiors and stuff like that, which is really what I do more than anything these days. And so that car, even though we didn't all do it at the same time, is one of the few vehicles that we all built together. So David Cruz actually designed a lot of the front end, me and him going back and forth, and he did his thing, and he built, because David's unbelievably badass and super creative and has such a great design eye. And he just, I was like, hey man, this is where I want my speakers. This is how this needs to be laid out, and you just got to build around it. And it's kind of an idea, but do your thing. And, so of course David gets about, 3/4 of the way into fabrication, and it's mostly built except for doors, and none of it's gapped and finished. And we have to stop because at this point we got interiors that have to get done, and I have to pull in to put them on something else. And so months and months and months go by, the car sits. And so, at this point, Greg has waited, and I need to get it done, and I want to get paid because he was paying us to do the build. I was like, look, I'm going to jump in and finish it. Dave, tell me what you wanted to do. And so I jump in and gap everything. He tells me how he wants to finish everything. I go through and finish it. And then the doors have to be done. So Justin Cush jumps in. Justin Cush designs the doors based off, the design principles of what David's done. And, and so we all tag team and finish this car. And so at the end of it, I'm sitting here with the one thing that we all three have worked on. And we've all won installer of the year. And I was like, man, this is like the one thing that we all three built together. Even though we didn't do it together, we did it at different times, but we all three built this car. I was like, and it's actually the way that I'd always, if I was ever going to rebuild it, that's what I had envisioned. And David nailed it. To a T. And everybody did the doors. Everything's phenomenal. And the interior itself is amazing. So from my standpoint, that was the only reason I really wanted the car back. It had far less to do with the audio and more about the interior and how everything was done. It was a bonus that it's the best it's ever sounded. So, so yeah, I mean, it's kind of the deal. So yeah. So anyways, long and short of it is, Greg gave me the car back and it's mine. So
you mentioned that, if someone touched the Civic, you'd be less inclined to chop their arm off currently. But if they touch one of your trucks, a little more aggressive about the trucks.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot more money goes into building.
There should be
trucks.
a photo in the first email of the trucks, both of them actually. So in one photo, I believe.
There's a little more money that goes into building the trucks than ever went into the Civic. So
the trucks.
So are you building the trucks from the ground up, or are you doing all of it, right? The body work, all
I design and coordinate builds and we build hot rod interiors. That's what we do. We don't actually do any of the metal work or any of that jazz. I work with a shop out of Alvin called Alamo Customs, and another shop called Drops RS, and they're two of my running buddies, close friends, and they're phenomenally creative and really good. And Robert's got he's one of the best painters out there and has great design ideas, and we jive. And so we get together and we bounce renderings back and forth and drawings, and and we build these trucks. And
was this scraping?
That was a scraping. That was a scraping the coast.
When you won Best of Show?
Yes, we won Best of Show.
So behind the camera, what you can't see is, I'll show you.
Well, there's like 4 Best of Shows, 3 or 4 in this building. There's that one.
Which one won Best of Show? The one in the foreground or the background?
So this year it's been the Apache, the one in the background. The Apache is the new truck, and the Apache is what's kind of a bastard. That's the best way to put it. So she's registered as a 59 because the VIN number for the cab is a 59, but the only thing that was a 59 is part of that cab that has the VIN number on it. Most of that truck is a 56. So 56 or a 57 or a 55, almost every other part. She's a complete custom built truck. So yeah, I mean, she's sitting on no limit engineering chassis, custom built.
You guys did the interior, you said, right?
Absolutely, yes. Yeah,
okay,
we absolutely did that. So we do all our stitching in house, all our 3D modeling and CNC and design in house, and so that's what we do. And Lucy was her before that, and so Lucy is the one that's actually really, really mine. The Apache
this truck in front.
Yeah, that one's really, really mine. That's the one that I own. The one behind it is actually a client's truck. He's one of my biggest clients out of Atlanta. He would tell you it's my truck, but it's really not my truck. I didn't pay for it. So, but I do take care of it. I do run it around the shows, and he would tell you it's my truck. But and maybe one day I'll talk him out of it. But it is definitely my buddy out of Atlanta. His name's Terry Curvin, and it's definitely his truck.
Now, you're brave enough that last time I was here, that C10 was in the showroom.
Yeah, we usually have one of the trucks on the showroom. We don't get a ton of people running around acting crazy, especially not like we used to. And in all honesty, big builds are a large. I mean, we still do. We'll do a deck and 2 or whatever, but big builds are a lot of what we do around here now. So, and we do a bunch of hot rod interiors. I mean, we probably 3 years worth of hot rod interiors in line with deposits. And the hot rod side of the business is great. I mean, all of our business is great, really. But I mean, it's crazy watching everything, and it all works together in a lot of ways. So it's really interesting. But we, like, even in the Bay right now, I think we have 10 hot rods that are all in various states of being finished. So we're finishing up a 57 Bel Air for Twin States, which is I think out of Atlanta or North Carolina. I always forget where they're at. We're reeling that for Tri-5 Nationals, and we have to deliver it Saturday. David just delivered one of the best looking blazer interiors you'll ever see, and it's actually debuting in the Pacific booth at SEMA for a gentleman. It's called the truck's called Twisted.
That was the
blue and white one.
Okay,
it's debuting at SEMA, and then now he's on an IROC for the same guy that actually owns the Apaches, our biggest client. And this IROC is owned by Jesse Greening. It's the wildest IROC you've ever seen. I mean, if
we'll have to check it out for sure.
IROC Z, this is the one you want. And,
I was specifically told, don't even take a picture in this direction.
Yeah, we can't take any pictures
okay,
anywhere.
Is it blue? Hopefully.
No.
It's a color that you can see with your eyes.
It's a color you can see with your eyes, but it is really, really, really cool. And we get a couple other Bel Airs here, a couple other Apaches, a lot of C10s. We do a bunch of them. So
when you build these trucks or interiors and such, are they all getting stereos or?
Absolutely, everyone gets a stereo.
Okay, all of them. Yeah, okay. They're not just you're not just doing straight interior work.
Yeah, but we
would, but
yeah, I mean we would. And I'm actually I will lie. There has been one, and it's actually in the bay right now that is getting no audio at all. It's a Chevelle for a client of mine in town that I've done probably 6 cars for, 6 hot rods, and this is one. He said, I don't care about it. The motor's really loud. I don't care about putting no radio in it. We're like, all right, well, we got to do something in the hole, so we're going to put a stock-esque radio in it, just make it light up. I ain't going to hook anything to it. But generally speaking, we have a set package we do for almost every hot rod. For trucks, we use the same setup, and cars, we use this other setup, and we use all programmable amplifiers from Helix and their V8, their V12 amps, because we have set tunes for these vehicles, and we almost exclusively use either the Flax thin 8-inch woofers, or we use the Kicker L7T 8-inch woofers. And then for mids and highs, it's almost exclusively Morel Virtus Nano, unless someone is wanting to sacrifice or allow things to be cut up, because we really advocate for, not cutting up the car. I don't want to get in there and cut your kick panels up. I don't want to get in there and cut sheet metal, because
these cars are clean. Like
these are $100, $200, $300,000 hot rods. These guys. So
that was going to be my next question. Like, what's a starting point for a full interior build? It
Depends. If it's a 2-door truck.
Called C10.
Let's just say you can start off at $15,000, or you could spend $60,000. It just depends on what you're doing and how we're finishing it and how much computer time's involved. We do a lot of computer modeling. Almost everything is done in 3D ahead of time, and then doing a ton of CNC work and 3D printing and so it just
actually sounds pretty damn reasonable. Up to 60, obviously you could go crazy, but yeah, full interior with audio and design and all that stuff.
And the pricing definitely seemed reasonable. So we were at Scrape, and I was seeing the Apache for the first time, and I was asking the same basic question, like, if you were to build this roundabout price, and the price he told me, I said, oh, I figured it'd be double.
Yeah, he spent $250,000 building that truck. It's $200,000, which is a lot of money.
Seeing the photo from far back, you're like, it seems like a lot. But when you look at this truck in person, you couldn't find a flaw if you were paid to find it.
So what you should extrapolate from that, and the people watching, is that quite often to build a vehicle of that nature to that magnitude, it does cost $350,000, $400,000, $500,000, because quite often there are so many bad providers in the process that screw it up a few times in the way, where, I know a few guys that have amazing custom vehicles that are like, yeah, this is the 3rd time I have it at a different paint shop and I'm, $70,000 into getting this, Impala painted, because the first guy did okay, but then it got messed up, and then his paint guy quit, and then it's this other guy, and he needed to strip the whole thing and start over again, and then this guy, and then this interior guy had it for a year, and it just turns into significantly more to build things, because shit has to get done 4 times. So that's why Chris is awesome for hitting a home run all the way through without screwing the whole damn thing up anywhere in it. And that's the biggest thing. There's so many fabricators and builders that have skill sets, but there's so few of them that have integrity to see things through all the way to the end. I was going to ask Chris, what software do you guys design in? What are you guys typically working in?
It's either CAD or AutoCAD or Fusion 360, almost exclusively. So all Autodesk,
Sweet.
software. We use VCarve Pro mostly for, like quick 3D cam, or
engraving and stuff, right? Yeah.
For like most of our engraving and like laser stuff, we'll drop it into Lightburn. It's easy and quick, and everybody here knows how to run it. So it's super duper easy. It's a cheap program, and so you'll draw it, and we teach everybody AutoCAD, and that's me being an old school guy, and I like to, it's easy for me to get that on there and get them running on it. And so we're starting more and more to push things towards Fusion. the more 3D stuff we get into, the more that it becomes super important. And Fusion's such a powerful program for really not a lot of money, in the grand scheme of things. And you can do so much with it. And so more complex 3D cam we do in Fusion, the quicker, faster stuff, we'll drop it into VCarve Pro, because VCarve Pro will do 3D cam great. And it is, as long as you're not being too complicated and you don't need to, you don't need to be as organized, I guess. But if you've got more complicated 3D stuff, then Fusion is the way to go. And it's a great program to work in. So,
but you named exactly all the software that we use here at Gately Audio. So it's nice to know that we're on that same page. Anytime when we're discussing anything, we know exactly what the hell we might be talking about in the future.
Every now and then. But so, like you said, Bobby, I'm gonna circle back a little bit to the redoing stuff. Whenever you get a reputation for not having to redo things, you do quality work the first time, like your shop here. That's how you end up with 3-year waits for interiors and massive. I'm sure you have a backlog of stuff you could work on constantly for years, because once you get the reputation in the industry for not screwing it up and doing good work, honestly, you end up with a bunch of demand.
Yeah, the biggest thing is taking care of people. I mean, and I'm sure Bobby can attest to this. There's been many a time I just tell somebody, if I couldn't, I don't know, and you get this people that you just can't make happy, and it is what it is. I just tell them, man, just give me that back. Let me give you your money back. Hell, I've told people, just keep the damn box and I'll just send you your money back. They're like, what? I was like, yeah, man, I don't really care about the money. You being happy is way more important than the goddamn money. And I tell them that all the time, and people are it blows them away. I was like, what? I was like, dude, I got another one to build. It's not that big a deal. I was like, but it is a big deal. But, at the end of the day, I would rather somebody say, well, you know what? We couldn't figure it out, or they couldn't do it the way I wanted, but you know what? They didn't rip me off. I've never had there's never been one person where at the end of it, I was like, man, they weren't done right, and that's more important to me than anything else. I mean, the money is completely secondary to the client being happy, so.
I feel that. I mean, obviously working with a lot smaller chunks of money, but same thing. If I mess something up or someone's not happy, they get their money back, and then I try to figure out how to make them happy beyond that. Yeah. That way they're not leaving our, transaction feeling bad.
I mean, I'll give you a great example. When we did when we started producing the Bronco pods, we actually had only had the 4-doors come through, and just looking at the pictures, we're like, the 2-door looks the exact same. We're good. And we shipped a couple to guys with 2 doors, and then found out that they weren't the same, which was our fault for assuming. And so anyways, we took it back and gave them their money back. And then obviously one of the guys was really nice, and he sends us that he worked at Ford, and he sends us a set of pods. So we of course designed a new set of pods for the 2-door. And then we printed 2 sets and just gave them to the guys that they were like, hey, let me pay you. I was like, no, man, you need some speakers. If you like speakers, we'll sell you some speakers, but the pods are on us. It was our screw up. We shouldn't have assumed that. And they were just blown away that we sent over a set of these pods we charged $500 for. And I was like, man, look, one of you was nice enough to send me something so I could get this right. And the other one of you was nice enough to not blast me online for really making a mistake that was on me, because I'm the one that made the call that said, oh yeah, it looks the exact same. It's totally not the same.
The difference is you fix your mistakes. You don't just sweep it under the rug and try to make them go away. You fix it.
I tell guys that it's not about making a mistake. Everybody screws up. It's what you do after you make the mistake. Are you gonna own it? Are you gonna take care of somebody? Are you gonna make it right? What are you gonna do? And everybody makes mistakes. I don't care who you are, how good you are, how perfect you are. I don't care how badass you are of a builder. Everybody screws up. So
I definitely really, it almost seems like I like to screw things up. So like you guys are reminding me repeatedly over and over again at this moment, and so is Colt down here. We just cut that 1212 4th order bandpass out of the back of that F450 and built an all new box for it. Main reason being is that it's not easy enough to service it. You know, Colt's like, look, if it's me or Tyson and there's a sub in there that needs to come out, or you want to clean it or whatever the hell you want to do, you got to pull all these amps. It's just not reasonable. This thing's going to go back to New York and somebody's going to be cursing us and what the hell and why would they do this? And so I sat here and I got Infusion and I spent 2 long days redesigning the box and figuring out a way for everything to be, you know, easy to service. And I designed the whole thing, and we started running, you know, 8 sheets of 1-inch birch and 2 huge sheets, 1.25 inch acrylic. And I'm like, it's expensive, but it's going to be awesome. It's going to be more awesome than it was. It's going to be easier to work on. The customer is absolutely ecstatic. He's like, you guys are amazing. I freaking love you. And that's, you know, that's what it takes. He's going to go home when his truck ships back to him. He's going to send us his GTR. And we got just, you know, it's that's the way to be. There's so many of these guys that they charge $300 to build a box for somebody, and then they screw it up a little bit, and they really should start over, but instead they'll work the shit out of it, and it'll be ugly and weird and not right and not work right, and they should just throw that shit in a dumpster and start over. And I mean,
how many guys have sent you a message? Hey man, I got this box from somebody else and it's one of yours, but then you look at a picture and it ain't.
I haven't had that, but I know you do, buddy. I know you do.
I
got one guy that is, you know, like knocking off my boxes like a motherfucker out there, and good for him. Go ahead, dude. I'll smile at one of them because I see the 2-3 dozen guys that are like, I'm gonna build boxes look just like MTI, and I'm like, man, I just
think you are.
Oh man, it's I cringe. I'm like, that's not Chris's box. It's like,
it's not even close.
Super duper wannabe as fuck, but man, it's not. And I'm just like, I'm like, they can. I guess they can do that shit. You know what I mean? Like it is what it is. But man, like I can't you find your own fucking way, man? Like really, you know? I mean,
there
are whole
companies
our stuff
stealing boxes.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing, man. It really is. But I mean, it is what it is, you know. I mean, what can you do? Man. You can't do a damn thing about it. We can't patent on the shit we're doing anyway. So I mean, got to roll with it. Just keep coming up with shit.
I had a customer come to me, about 2 years ago, and he came in and he's like, "Can you build me this?" And it was a picture of one of your boxes, and I was like, "No, order it from them." He's like, "Who's that?" I'm like, "It's MTI. It says it right on the front of the box." He's like, "Oh, that's not like," I'm like, "They're a custom built. Like, get it, buy it. Let's get one." You know, and it was a SEMA truck, and he ordered it off your site. He showed up. We did the install. Sounded great. Customer was happy.
We tell everybody. So anytime someone shows one of your boxes, I go, call Bobby. What is this? Yeah. Here, this is it. This is how you get in touch with them. I don't build that. That's not me. If you want that box, this is your guy. I was like, that's the one you need to order.
For me to build a box that resembled one of your boxes, me and the guys be fiddle fucking around. It cost us more money to build that.
What you're building.
Right. I'm like what?
You just order one from Chris and mark it up and sell to your boy.
Yeah. Well, no, I mean, like we shop each other's products. You know what I mean? Yeah. I mean, there's some magical efficiency stuff in some of your boxes. You guys are like, I got 800 watts on it. I'm like, fuck, that's doing great.
Yeah.
My wife and Colt are telling me I'm saying fuck too much.
No, dude.
Yeah, one guy. I think the first time you posted one of the all plexi underseat truck boxes, it's one of my longtime clients. He goes, "Man, I want one just like that." I go, "Cool, give me a second." Hey man, you saw one of these because I keep building it. I don't even want to start figuring it out. Just tell me how much you want.
Here?
Yeah,
the one behind me. It's a 6'8" all acrylic using a 3 3/4 seat lift on that one. And
Yep.
I got 2 more of those to build too.
My brain couldn't deal with okay, how is this even a thing?
Yeah, someone was like, "Hey man, you could do that for me." I was like, "Oh, I'm not doing it." I was like, "Let me call Bobby." I was like, "I'll just order one. How about I just order his? Will that work for you? Because I'm not doing that." I was like, "No, man." I was like, way more about putting that plexi together and making it look flawless than I do.
I mean, like Bobby said, by the time you figured out how to even say you built something that looked just like it, by the time you got to that point, see?
How many fucks does that weigh? Me and two of my guys picked that thing up earlier today, thinking we were just gonna, and we had to be kind of careful because the LED lights come out of the bottom center, and it was on its back, so we wanted to pick it up, tuck the wires, and set it back on the table. And that thing is like the real awkward 200 plus pounds truck box. So we're gonna have to find a way to.
There's 200 pounds, and every surface can be scratched.
Well, the bottom's really hard to scratch because we coat the bottom of it with resin.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
There's my big trick for everybody. If you scuff it with some Scotch-Brite, you mix some badass fiberglass resin.
You could
put
kind of
pigment or what's that?
You could perfectly explain exactly how you do it, and no one's still going to do it because they're like, "Oh, it's too much work."
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's a shitload of work. It's not.
Oh, dude, it's retarded.
No, we've been working on that box for a month, and it like gobbles up shop space. There's a few of the parts are two-sided machining, and they have to be machined. They have to get machined, and then they have to get resin coating, and then they have to go back and get machined again, and then they come back, and then they go into assembly. And
so what? Same thing. I said, what would something like that cost starting roundabout?
Just the enclosure is $6,860.
Yeah, the one we showed earlier that has all the lights with the 410s is like $7,200 is what we charge for. It's got.
I need to charge more fucking money.
Yeah, I got.
And I think it has every bit of 60 plus hours, 70 hours in it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we need to. In the past, we've communicated. We talked quite a bit about how our products price, and in that and it's almost like people if there's a box for $1,500 or $2,500 and they're like, that's a speaker box, huh? For $1,500, $1,800. It's like shit. And they're like, oh look, there's another company that does it. Oh, that's really pretty too. And then it doesn't turn into am I gonna pay $1,800 for a box? It's which one? Which one do I want?
Which $1,800 box do I want?
Yeah.
I mean, the fact that there's a market
is
in
it the like fancy plywood one, or is it the one that's wrapped in the upholstery that matches my truck? Is it what direction am I going here? And it's kind of awesome. There's validity, the fact that there's a super high-end company that exists that makes all these beautiful products, and there's another one doing something that's similar but very different. There is very seldom any similarities between anything that Chris is building that I'm building. It's real rare.
But the market still supports the fact that they can each sell $7,000 undersea boxes.
Oh, there could be 5 more companies at producing products at this level if they put forth the quality and the customer service that we're talking about here. The whole root of this whole conversation, the last 20 minutes of this goes back to taking care of your shit, doing what you say you're going to do. When you make a mistake, addressing it and doing better for it. Sometimes we'll screw something up building a box, and then we'll find a way, like in the process of fixing it, we find a way to make the product even better. And that's cool. Hey, we're changing everything on all the boxes, and we're back at the computer and just changing, endlessly developing and improving.
Yep. Well, people are paying for all that time and 30 plus years of experience that you guys have accumulated. I mean, you can't buy that stuff. It doesn't matter. It takes time. You can't speed up time. You can't speed up experience. It just you can't buy it. So you have to pay for it. I mean, unless you want to, spend a couple years in your garage building your own box.
I don't even think
make it look like that.
5 years, I could build something that looks like that one or like that other. I don't think I could do it.
Good luck.
Yeah. Well, you'd be building one box in 5 years.
Yeah, it'd be a single box, and at the end, they'd be at a point where they're doing something so much better. It'd be like, you know what? It's not even. But
Andrew would have produced 5,000 in that time.
Exactly, they would have made 5,000 of them, while I've made one that looks halfway as good.
Yeah, man. The truck market's a big deal, man. And I think that's the biggest thing that I feel like that we contributed or helped with is, and I know I've heard this from a lot of dealers and a lot of people out there, is like we almost made it okay for someone to spend 15, 20, 30, 40, $100,000 on an audio system in a truck. I mean, it's not that it never happened before, but you see it happening every day now. You see it happening at shops all over the country now. It's almost a thing when you buy one of these trucks and you throw a big lift on it, you throw some big wheels tires. I mean, actually, most of the ones that come through ours are not big, crazy lifted SEMA trucks. They're normal, everyday trucks, and they're spending 15 to 30 grand on their audio system. And that wasn't a thing 3-4 years ago.
Yeah, exactly. So I was about to say, 8 to 9 years ago, whenever I was in the retail side, selling someone a $200 Fox box was a push. Because they're like, man, $200 for a box under my seat, that was a hard sell for people in my area. But then I started making nicer and nicer boxes, and I was like, you got this $200 one that bangs, but I mean, you go get this other one that bangs, it's $800. They're like, oh man, people buying that? Well, they're in business.
Trucks have gotten so expensive too over the last 6-7 years as well. I mean, you couldn't buy $100,000 truck 6 years ago, and now it's like 20% of the trucks are $100,000 or more.
Yeah, I mean, it's nothing. It's nothing to spend 70, 80, 100 grand. I mean, shoot, if you're buying a diesel truck, I just bought a new F350.
I was just about to add,
and it was 80, and that was a deal, and I had to wait 9 months for it. Shit. But I mean,
the $20,000 pickup anymore, it's not a thing.
Yeah, I mean, so what are you gonna do? You gonna throw a $300, $200 box on the seat, or you gonna build something that looks like it was meant to be there? It gets loud, and that's the thing, is building something that fits, that looks good in the truck. And I think I really think was the key to the whole deal, was that is
make it look like it belongs.
Is consumers wanted something different. They didn't want. It's not that nobody buys those boxes, because obviously lots of people buy those boxes because they can't build enough of them. I mean, point blank, you and Bobby, I know you know this. There's so many more companies now building boxes here in the cheap, Q-Bomb or, Fox box or whatever, those type. There's so many of those boxes out there now. Shoot, I know of a company in Dallas and a company in Houston. They're building all the boxes and supplying all the shops there, and everyone's like, and you have, reps coming to me and say, hey, you should do that. No, I don't want no part of that. I don't ever want to be that guy. I was like, I'm out. Hard pass.
Yeah, that's not fun. To build the cheapy shit isn't fun. I mean, we're manufacturing and we have inventory, but all of the stuff we build is fucking stout and beautiful and awesome. And we don't have this is the economy thing. Like, no, I mean, if you can't afford that, that's fine. And I understand. And there's plenty of great products that work pretty well. They don't work as well, but they work,
They work pretty well. They're not bad. I mean, they'll get it done. And, so I just tell everybody, so that's that, and that I'm, if nothing else, it makes me feel good when I was like, oh man, there's so many people that copy what y'all do. I was like, yeah, and it is what it is, man. I was like, I ain't gonna sit here and say that I've never got an idea from someone else. I mean, we all get ideas from everybody. And if you don't, you're lying. I mean, at the end of the day, if nothing else, I feel like, we were a big part of making what is the industry now the way it is, and that's neat. We affected change. And
do you know of anyone else doing pillars and sales the way that y'all do it?
I think there's no way that does it the way we do it, because
like the I guess general idea of that, like they look like they could be OEM. They're so.
You got who is it? Sounds Good, which out of Nashville, which they basically copy one of our one-piece pillars, and that's what they do, and and they'll build you some if you want to wait 3 or 4 months to get them or whatever, something of that nature. But I don't know of a bunch of companies that are doing them or any of that jazz. And now that we manufacture almost everything in house, it's not really, if I wanted to, I could drop the price and run everybody out.
Have y'all seen the pillars that they put out?
We manufacture every piece of ours now from the word go.
They are fantastic looking.
We can build a full set of pillars from start to finish in 2 hours.
And that's like with LEDs and.
No, not with LEDs. No, it's our standard off the shelf pillar.
And these are
05 Duramax pillars.
I'd say no, not those.
No. And this is you have a customer send in their pillars and you guys build them, or are you?
We generally, if it's for most of the standard trucks, we stock almost all the A pillars now. We stock factory pillars. So there's occasions where we'll have, if the client, is like, all right, I want to save X amount of dollars on a set, then they'll send us their pillars. But we try to tell them, look, let's just use ours. It's like that are here. Keep those if you ever get rid of the truck, because you don't have to sell this stuff with the truck, and like Ford guys tend to buy Ford trucks, and Chevy guys tend to buy Chevy trucks. You almost like, if you're an iPhone, you like iPhones, stuff like that. So we try to encourage guys to look. I was like, you don't have to. I mean, I like if you want to buy the thing from me 5 times over the next 5 years, but you don't have to, So yeah, I mean, generally speaking, I mean, I don't know. I mean, there's companies out there that'll build you a set of pillars. I mean, everybody will do anything if you ask them to, but I mean, we literally, we manufacture it all here in house, and we've spent, there's nobody's built more Ford trucks than us, hands down. I mean, someone can raise their hand and say they have, and I'll laugh at them. I mean, we literally do 10, 15 a week. I mean, all the time. I mean,
they're not like small Ford trucks either. They're full on absolute DSP built tune, really nice boxes.
We do a bunch of them. I mean, that's awesome. Enough so that we know people at Ford, at Ford's engineering team. We know people on the assembly lines. We've been really there are pillars for C10s actually. Yeah, but you have to tell me on that stuff. We do a whole line of production parts for C10s as well. So
there you go, Rhonda.
So, but yeah, I mean, it's the deal is, it started with boxes, and we obviously we'll always do that, but there's lots of other things that we can build out there that, we do entire production C10 interiors, and we ship them out. I've actually got 2 right now that I'm in the process of doing. We're machine all the parts and literally send out all the instructions and the all the hardware to do it. And
so a full DIY,
you can put
DIY quote install interior.
You can do your whole C10 interior, especially for the 68s to 72s. We that's my years. So
awesome.
And it looks like a badass custom interior too.
It does. It's exactly like what we would build you in house if you were spending, $15,000.
What do those DIY kits run, Chris?
A full blown, what I call full blown production C10 interiors is about $15,000, like with it done in leather. If you want it in vinyl, it's $2 or $3 less, something like that. And we almost never do vinyl.
At that point,
but it's about if you get all the options, you're gonna spend about $15,000. So, and that's with audio and everything. I mean,
that's like with speakers and everything.
Audio and everything. Yeah.
See, like that feels too cheap. I'm gonna be honest.
It does. With the box too, the sub box.
Yeah. We do a behind the seat sub box for it, and kick panels.
Hey, we got Steve Mead on here.
Oh man.
And you pick anything you want right here.
Yeah.
Is it the real Steve?
But so.
Oh damn it! There we go.
Now
look at it. He validated all my fucks.
All right,
it's okay now because Steve said so.
Yeah, because Steve said so.
That old DD1 he's got. I've told this story a couple times on comments and posts, but man, that thing really did wake my Tahoe up. It found distortion where three O-scopes, 4 users over a year and a half could not find.
Yeah.
The O-scope said clean, but I always had a sub overheating issue. It was bad. Like less than a song, and my subs are 250 degrees hot. I get a DD1 on trade for a design. I'm like, let me just see. Well, I had full harmonic distortion, volume 39 out of 40. But O-scope said clean 40 out of 40. So I set everything to volume 38. I can play over a 60 for like 15 to 20 minutes straight now. Just on music, just full tilt. And the subs barely get to 200 degrees.
I've sworn by SMD stuff for a long time, and he actually he's the reason I'm into car audio. So if you're watching, Steve, thank you.
He's the reason a lot of people are into car audio.
Yeah,
but the eyeball video.
Yeah,
the chick's eyeball fell out. I mean, come on, dude. We all remember that.
Yeah.
Man.
That's still
Yeah.
that was so gross, man.
I think when I started watching his, it was like tremendous bass, like 21.
Oh yeah,
and I was like
opening the doors on the front of like the gas station. Oh
Yeah.
man, those are classics. But yeah, that DD1 thing. He reached out to me. He's like, man, if you like that, you'll love the DD1 Plus. I'm like, I'll buy one then. Sounds good. I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna buy the whole thing.
Yeah.
So I bought the whole suite, and I've ended up using basically every one of those tools. The signal generator is probably my favorite because like I can design a box, and then I can they'll bring, like say I design it, they build it, I get my hands on it, I can verify tuning without having to get DATs out, or I can do all of this crazy stuff with the signal generator that just it makes life so simple, so easy, and that's like not a lot, but there's some bass heads who are like they want to hate on it, like oh this goes better, this and that. These tools all have a place. My biggest thing with the SMD stuff is it's easy to use. It's quick. Like I could teach anyone to use a DD1 Plus in 10 minutes, and they could just start setting games.
Yep, and they're made for us.
Turn the scope on 10 minutes.
Yep.
But yeah, it's.
What's up, Steve? You gonna let us bring you on the show in a few weeks? We'll wait for him to answer that.
He's already got
I'll put the pressure on him. I know it should be me. Come on, buddy. But
come on with it.
So yeah. Fucking
Cool,
A. So Chris, that's super cool. We need to look at maybe getting like some dealer information on some of those C10 products. My man Colt, who's been commenting on here all over the place, he's like a C10 crazy person, and he builds custom C10s like on the side. And I know he's in the middle of one. I think it's a 67 that he's going to need interior stuff for, and probably be a better option than most other options to have you build.
If you go to, I believe it's well, you can go. The easiest thing is go to c10interior.com. So
okay, you have c10interior.com.
Yeah, I own it. It's one of my hobbies. I buy .coms.
That's how you know you're old. Your hobby is buying .coms.
I don't think I've been to this one.
I've got quite a few .coms.
Yeah, I believe it is. Yeah, so c10interior.com takes you straight to the C10 parts on the automotive design page.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you do c10interior.com, it goes straight to our automotive design page, and you just go to products, and under products it has all the C10 parts that we do. So, and at the end of the day, we can do something that's standard off the shelf that you've seen, or if someone wants to pay a little more, I'll do something one-off just for them. We exclusively use leathers from Relicate and Apex, for our panels, so it's easy for clients to get onto those sites and find a leather or material that they like, and pick something out that they love, that's going to fit their vehicle. And the color samples online are pretty close, so they're close enough you can get it right, off your paint samples. But yeah, I mean, that's the easiest way to do it.
New body Chevys need to be next. 99 to 06s or 07 classics.
Some cat eyes.
Ooh,
cat eyes.
Love me a cat eye. That's it.
I got a couple here we're building for guys, so we're gonna scan them.
You ever built some pillars for 164 dB Tahoe?
No, I haven't. Not a Tahoe, but I mean, I've got one 160 dB vehicle. That is it. That is all I've ever done is one. That's it. And it was by luck. I ain't gonna act like I did it on purpose. So, and that was
Must have been a Civic.
That was Insomnia. No, it was Insomnia. Insomnia did a 161.
Was that 232s or something?
No, not with the 32s. We blew up those subs so many times. I don't ever want to think about those subs again. and everybody warned us, including the guys at B2. So
I want to say I also was like, hey.
Everybody said don't do it.
This is like before we were friendly. I met you like once, and I was like, hey.
Well, it was so the second time in, guys, it was just supposed to be a show truck. And the problem is like the Crossfire 15s the first time, and that thing was retarded. I mean, especially for us, we're a bunch of SQ guys, right? So we're like going, man, we just blew a windshield out. Yeah. That's like for us that have never done it before. We're like, dude, I can't believe we just did that. And I was like,
9 times. You're like, I wish it would stop.
I was like, I'm glad he's got insurance because I ain't paying for this shit. And so you know, so we did the 32s in there, and it was really, he wanted to have a show. He put air ride on it and everything else and a bunch of other stuff. And we redid that whole interior, and it was meant to be a show truck. But invariably, he'd go to a show, and there'd be some dude with a wall hammer, and he'd be like, "Oh man, I can get that." I was like, "No, you can't. You ain't beating him. You ain't gonna be louder." And he'd give it hell, and he'd roast them drivers, and then we'd have to spend 2 days rebuilding them. I got so good at rebuilding 32s, I never want to do it again, ever. I don't ever do it. I don't want to think about it. I gave him his truck. I said, "I'm out. I'll never."
It's
touch
an
it."
expensive ass recon too.
Oh, it is. It's like $1,000 in parts. At least it was back, and that was years ago. I don't even want to think what it is now.
Well, so there are other subs that have $1,000 recones now. I saw the price sheet for a Pride Audio something. Just the recones, and that was $9.99. I said, no, indeed. I don't care what that sub does. It doesn't do it like a DDZ. Send it back. No, there's nobody, no chance.
Yeah, man. They like I said, that we're not really, you know, on that side, but we have one 160 confirmed vehicle under our belt. And that is it. And it was a lot of fun doing it. Me and Edgar built that truck, and we had a lot of fun building that one. It's been there was a picture of us of me sleeping on a car seat at the shop. My wife posted up a few weeks back on Facebook, and that was actually when we were building that truck the very first time. And we built that entire truck using the shop bot and my first universal laser in our old small shop that was like only 2,000 square feet. That included our fab room and everything. And me and Edgar basically lived at that shop for, I don't know, a month or get finished and ready to go.
Yeah, the Insomnia build, that's Kendrick's. Is that the one you're talking about?
That's Kendrick's. Yeah, that's Kendrick's
okay.
truck.
Yeah. I never saw it with 32s. I remember seeing it with the Crossfires.
If you go to the MT or mobiletoysinc.com, our main store page, it's actually on there. It's Mobile Toys.
Yeah, I think I only saw photos of it with the 32s. I think
it wasn't.
The 32s was after or before the 15s?
It was after. We did a complete rebuild on that vehicle afterwards for him. Wow. And he changed amps and and most of that one was done by Matt Val, and when he was here, and Edgar did most of that truck on the rebuild. And it's but if you go to that site and just go to builds, they're called Dream Drives is what's on there. But on that site is on that deal is Kendrick's, the rebuild of Kendrick's vehicle.
So that build was like a flash in the pan.
Well,
it went real quick.
Yeah, there it is. That's it.
Look at that.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, and it was in Passmac.
Where is this now?
He has it at his house. I know during COVID, him and his wife had a really bad bout with COVID. I know they both pulled through, but had a really bad bout with COVID, and everything's B2, Kenwood source unit and audio control processing in it.
My big thing would be, even if I managed to get something semi like that, could it stay together in a vehicle that does demo low 60s?
No, it won't. That roof, just in the 5 shows he had it, I had to go back and re-bolt. It would work the bolts loose. The boots, they would just start, and then I started having to thread lock them on, and stuff just starts coming loose. Yeah, because obviously the amps were on a steel rack in the roof and the racks welded into place. So you're fighting, and that was what we'd always told him. I was like, man, you've asked me to build a show truck, and then you want to go try to act like you're hood rat stuff. And I get it. I totally trust me. If
it wasn't hang out with me.
I was like, and I get it. I'm not saying it's wrong. What I'm saying is you built a show truck. It's not going to work. And it doesn't, because you would lay into it and things start coming loose, because that's what they're going to do is come loose, because you're all these vibrations. So he still has the truck. It's at his house. I think he occasionally takes it out, but I know that during COVID, they couldn't do him and his wife couldn't do almost anything for like 2 years. They were like on lockdown. So, I think it kind of took the whole wind out of that whole deal. But yeah, dude, it was a lot of fun. And Matt Val and Edgar did such a great job on that. They did most of that rebuild was those two. I did the roof in that one. the console is the original console from the first build, but then Matt Val redid the whole insert on it. But I mean, they did almost an entire build, you know.
Yeah, that build, like every time it was posted, just pretty much broke the internet in the car auto community. It's just
it was wild building the thing the first time. It was really crazy.
Well, fellas,
love to see it at a show sometime. But yeah, y'all need to cut. Got work to do.
It's 10 o'clock. I got an hour of sleep last night. Pretty tired.
I hear you.
Yeah, I'm starving my ass off, gentlemen. I love talking to you guys. Let's wrap this shit up.
Well, and we have more work to do, so it's unfortunate.
I'm gonna go home. These guys are gonna work. I ain't staying up here.
I'm gonna sound at the doors for the next
I'm gonna go get me a slice of pizza, and I'm out.
I'm gonna tear a station in the Tahoe because I brought it with me.
Do it.
Yeah, 164 dB in a Tahoe. Let's go. Or 153.
All right, let's see some content tomorrow with
do 60 something.
Yeah. Break some shit.
Oh,
all right, boys. Well, thanks.
I'll break some sound quality, guys, in it.
Dude, man, it was an honor, man. It was great talking to you guys. You guys are welcome in my bay, in my install, in my shop anytime you're in Texas. Come on, and I'm out y'all's way. I'll give you a holler for sure. So,
absolutely. Well, thanks again, Chris and Jeff and Drew, Bobby.
Yes, sir. Thank you guys so much. We'll talk again soon. I'm going to hit you up, Chris.
All right, brother. Hit me up, brother. Anytime. Y'all come on out. So,
all right,
boys.
Be good.
Have a good one.
Later, y'all.